Welcome back to the study of the book of Job. Today we're going to continue with verse 11. As you notice here, I have it here on the screen. I have verse 11 and I'm going to read it and then try to explain some of the features. So now, again, just to remind you, we're entering the second part of chapter 3. First we had that malediction, basically the cursing of the day of the birth and the day of conception. And now we're moving in the lament proper. So now he's lamenting, and the lament starts with the why. So I'm going to read it now. It's Lamalo meirechem amut mi beten yatzati ve'ekva. So notice here, first of all, hopefully you understand that lama means why. Then we have the negation, and I just put for you in red so you can distinguish. This is the preposition min. And then we have a rechem. So we have two words here which might be new to you, rechem and beten. Rechem and beten, both of them preceded by min. Notice here, because I cannot double the reish, this becomes a mei. And here, because I can double the bet, it's a mi. But they're both basically two nouns preceded by the preposition min, which is attached directly. And then notice here we have the verb muth, to die. It's simply a kal, amuth. It just vocalizes just like the verb kum, akum, or bo, avo, and so on. So literally means, why did I not come out, did I not die from the womb? Why did I not die? Why died I not? Notice the King James Version, why died I not from the womb? This is a fairly literal translation. Or while others notice that they do a more interpretive translation, why did I not die at birth? But literally is like from the womb, or maybe on the way out from the womb, as we shall see, as the second line implies. Notice the second line, mi beten. This is just another word for womb. It means belly, but it can also mean womb. And notice some of them translate womb. The second one, come out from the womb and expire. So literally, from the womb or from the belly, I came out and I expired. What is interesting in this particular verse, and you should pay attention, notice that we have here imperfect. We know that this is an imperfect because it's preceded by the aleph. And we have here clearly a perfect, yatsa, to go out. Yatsati is just like katalti, right? So this is a imperfect, this is a perfect. But notice they are both used with the past tense meaning. So they're both translated past tense. I died, I came out, and the same is with this, another imperfect. So please be very careful. In poetry, it's very common for the perfect to be used in parallel with the imperfect, with absolutely no difference in meaning. There's no translation which signals any difference in meaning between these verbs. Even though, again, this is an imperfect, this is an imperfect, this is a perfect. At least, the pointing is like that. Of course, it could be, and this is what I think it is, that this is an earlier form, and this is an earlier form which is like a preterite, which is basically a past tense. So that's right, because in Hebrew you have the perfect, which can be used for past, and we have this preterite, can also be used for past. That's why they can be used interchangeably. But please notice that this, and again, as you do your translation, and as you analyze your verses, it's very, very useful, especially if you have a handy software, to look at other translations. If you look at other translation, including the Septuagint is very important, and I have also the translation of the Septuagint here. Why from the womb do not I die? Actually, no. This is the Septuagint, and of course this is the translation. The one I showed you, is the Young literal translation. I would also include this in my translation because this gives you an idea about how a literal translation is like. Why from the womb do I not die? Notice he translates it as a present. From the belly I have come forth and gasp. So this literal translation tries to usually translate the imperfect as a present or a future, but notice it doesn't make much sense. Most translation translate as past tense. So notice here, and some of course do an interpretive translation. Notice here, why was I not stillborn? Some translate like this. So basically already die from the womb. The idea, if I die from the womb, you know, kind of I was a stillborn baby. But I think that's overreaching. Notice it says here, I came out from the womb and I perished. Maybe I expired, or even gasped. Kind of I had a last gasp and died. So didn't literally die in the womb, died just when it came out from the womb. So again, this is something you might want to pay attention to. Now, a couple of things you notice immediately as you look at some translations. So notice first of all that the Septuagint, which seems to be fairly literal, why died I not in the belly, instead of from the belly? That's kind of an interesting difference. And why did I not come forth from the womb and die immediately? Now this is unusual. He dies immediately. I die immediately. And of course, we see the word immediately here that you find it, I think, in Mark a lot, eutus, immediately. So that is certainly an addition, but I think it's a good translation because I think that's the idea. That's the idea, but it's a little bit controversial here. Why died I not in the belly, and why didn't I come from the womb and die immediately? So it doesn't make sense. You either die in the belly, or you come out, or you die when you come out and then die immediately. I think the idea is this: why did I not die when I came out basically from the womb? Why did I not die immediately, right after I expired, right after I came out? In any case, the best translation that I can tell right now, the most literal, is if you combine something like this, the King James Version, why died I not from the womb, come out from the womb and expire? Even though there's a little bit of a contradiction there. So the only thing that I thought you should look it up is especially the verb gava. What exactly does it mean, gava? And notice that most people think it means to pass away. Why didn't I? So basically come out and then pass away. And of course we have Job included in this, Job 3:11, and it actually has a bunch of occurrences in the book of Job. You might want to check those out and see exactly how the verb is used. But notice driver, essentially to gasp for breath. So basically you gasp for breath and die. So again, I think basically the idea is that Job wishes that he died either in the womb or immediately after he came out. He just doesn't want to see anything in this life. He just doesn't want to have any part in this life in which he's suffering so much. Now, if we look at the next verse, continues with another question. And now notice he uses madua for why. So again, I think this is fairly normal in poetry. Sometimes you use one verb, sometimes you use another verb, but now it's using I mean, not a verb, a question mark. I mean, the idea in poetry is that you try to vary your words. So you have lama, now you have madua with the same meaning, why. And again, kidmuni, so I'm going to read the sentence, madua kidmuni birkayem uma shadayim ki inak. Now again, what you will notice here immediately is, again, we have a perfect because you have kadam. There's no prefix here, it's a perfect. This is the plural, and then of course this is the pronominal suffix, And then now notice this verb of course, because it has the aleph in front, is an imperfect from the verb yanak. So we have two verb roots, kadam and yanak. And usually it's translated like this: why did, and here we have the word for knees. Do not confuse it with the word for barach, blessing. It's the word for knees, and we notice we have a dual because you have two knees. So you have birkayim, ayim is the dual, and shadayim. Shadayim, again, another dual, shadayim referring to the breasts of a woman who nurses. So why did the knees, and here this is questionable, but most translate to receive me. Why did the knees receive me? Like this translation, why did the knees receive me? And why basically breasts that, gave me, gave me to suck or, nurse me. So this is a, why were there breasts for me to nurse? But this is the verb yanak. I will not look at it. If you want to look it up in a lexicon, you can. But it literally means to nurse, or to suck the breast, what a baby does when he's born and when he's very, very young. So the question is, again, notice the dual, shadayim and birkayim. And here, of course, that I sucked, that I nursed. So here, again, it's useful to take a look at a bunch of translation, and it's just, in this case, just to notice the unusual translation of the King James, why did the knees prevent me? I cannot explain that translation. And notice the Septuagint, why did the knees support me? So once you see something like this, when you see a variation in translation, then I think you should go further and analyze the verb, in this case kadam, to see which is the best translation. This again is not disputed. I will not spend time on this one. I mean, just to see the meaning. It means to nurse or to suck the breast. So you notice that the translations are very, very clear, and they all concur. But here, since there's some difference, you might want to look at the verb kadam. And I put it for you here, kadam. And if we look at the PL, because of course this is a PL. So again, please notice an indication of the PL is very, very simple. The PL is very clear because it has this E, ki. When you see something that starts with the E, which is a verbal form, you might think about PL, and also we see the doubling of the dalet. So strong indicators that we're dealing with the PL. Here, of course, we simply have to do with the simple kal. I didn't mention that, but hopefully you do know that. But this is a PL, so you want to look at kadam, you look at the PL, and notice it means to be in front. So this is a very, very normal meaning, to be in front, but also means to go up to someone to meet. So literally, I think this means, why were their knees to meet me, basically to meet my coming into the world. And that's why I think the translation to receive me is the best. And notice here, of course, Job is included, Job 41:3. Actually, this is another one we're interested in, but there's another occurrence in Job. But especially Job 3:12 and 30:27. So to go up to someone to meet, usually to meet a person, but in this case, of course, refers to the knees, which are meeting the newborn baby. So why were their knees, basically? And perhaps that's why you can understand the translation of the Septuagint, why there were knees to support me when I came out from the womb. But literally, why were their knees to meet me, kind of to welcome me into this world? He doesn't want those knees to exist because he doesn't want to be in this world, obviously. Now, if we move a little bit further to Job 3:13, and this is a key passage because take some time, maybe pause this after you analyze this verse and look at verse 26. I didn't do it right now in this analysis, but you might want to do that. So if you look at this in verse 13, you will see two important verbs, shakat here, and nuach. Both verbs that have to do with peace, with rest. And these are two verbs that will be repeated at the very end of the chapter, in verse 26, again, if you look. Perhaps I should have put it here, but it's probably easier for you just to pause it and take a look at that verse, at least briefly. But just to translate this, let me read it first. It simply says, Ki ata Shachafti Vaeshkot Yashanti Az Yanuach Li. So again, Ki ata shakafti Vaeshkot Yashanti Az Yanuach Li. So again, just a very, very quick look at this verse shows us that we have, again, a perfect. This is a perfect because it has nothing in front and it has a suffix. This is another perfect, Yashan. It has again the suffix T, so you immediately should figure out that this is a first person common singular. But then notice we have two imperfects, Eshkot and Yanuach. Again, Yod in front, Aleph in front. This is a prefix in front. We have imperfects. So again, it's very, very interesting. Now we have both a perfect, two perfects and two imperfects, which are used with kind of like, kind of hypothetical situation for then, or literally for now. So notice some translate then, whereas I translate more literally now. Now, this ata means now. Please don't confuse it with ata with aleph, which means you. For now, and it would be I would lay down and be at peace, or I would have lain down and be at peace, or I should lay down. But again, it's the idea of hypothetical. They both express a hypothetical situation. If I died in the past, then or now, I would lay down. Again, shachav is to lie down, and shakat to be quiet. To be quiet, to be notice New Jerusalem Bible, I would be lying in peace. It's the idea to be in quiet, in peace. And then I would sleep. Now I would sleep. Yashan is to sleep. I would sleep, and then Yanuach li. Yanuach li. This is a little bit unusual because I would expect a first person. Yanuach li, however, it's a third person. But perhaps, and notice that everybody translates with I would have been at rest. So this is a little bit unusual because literally then, Yanuach li, perhaps is translated, the rest would be to me, for me. So there would be rest for me, and everybody translates with I. Let's look at the Young Literal Translation. For now, I have lain down and I'm quiet. Again, very, very literal. Translates I have lain down, but it's really hypothetical, as most translate I would have lain down or should have lain down, and I'm quiet. I have slept, then there's rest to me. So this is very literal. So probably most translate here, there's rest to me, as I would be at rest. In any case, the meaning is very, very clear here. If I died, if I was never born, or if I died right when I came out from my mother's womb, so that kind of a seeming contradiction may simply mean that Job would desire either to die in his mother's womb or just to come out and expire immediately, so he doesn't live in this world which is so full of pain for him and suffering. In any of those scenarios, he sees himself now as being lain to sleep and being peaceful and quiet. Now think about this, and this is something that you want to look at, and we discuss the interpretation. Because if you look at this verse and look at the whole verse, not just verse 13, you will notice that Job has an interesting idea about death, or at least about the death of an unborn or of a newborn child. In general, the view about Sheol and death is not so peaceful as you find it in Job. So it's very interesting, and that's a question mark. Why does he see death so peaceful and restful, as the rest of the Old Testament doesn't seem to see it that way? Is it because he's born, he dies right at birth? So in other words, he didn't sin, he didn't do anything bad? Or is this just some idealistic view of death that he has because he's in such a great pain? I don't know. But also something interesting to notice is that the Septuagint uses indicative aorist, again, but notice that the translation of this is Septuagint. Now I should have lain down and been quiet. So very similar, hypothetical. I should have slept and been at rest. So again, the translations pretty much agree on the way to go with this one. And then it continues in verse 3:14, a fairly easy verse. So I'm going to read it for you. Im malachim v'yotzei aretz habonim choravot lamo. So literally is this, with kings and yotzei aretz. So here what is key for you to identify is the verb ya'atz. We have to do the verb ya'atz. Ya'atz is to counsel. And because it starts with the O, so notice usually when you see a verbal form that starts with the O, think about participle, active participle kal. And that's what this is it. With yotzei, literally it would be, it would be like if it was the whole word, it would be yoatzim. Yoatzim are those who are counseling or counselors, but this is in construct because of the A ending. With counselors of the earth, basically the counselors of the earth. Ha bonim choravot lamo. So ha, it's the ones, or here notice the definite article can function as also like a relative pronoun, like a share. So you could think about a share, but it can also be just ha, bonim, and here is the verb bana to build, and again it's an active participle. Ha bonim, the ones building, choravot lamo. So choravot, it's usually translated ruins by everybody. Ruins, desolate places, ruins, and so on, wastes by some. But the ones building ruins for themselves. So here please notice the more archaic, this is a more archaic form of preposition le plus the ending. You expect lahem, but also can be mo. This is it's considered a more archaic ending, for themselves. Choravot, for themselves. And here, of course, the question is for you, why would the kings build ruins for themselves, right? But I think the meaning is this, they didn't build ruins, of course. They built palaces. So that's why, for example, the New Jerusalem Bible is struggling, who built their dwellings in desolate places. So understand this, that they didn't build ruins. They must have built in desolate places, and that has to do with the meaning of chorbot. And we will look at the meaning of chorbot because obviously some people are struggling with the meaning of this. The most obvious, of course, is the Septuagint. Notice the Septuagint translates it with kings and counselors of the earth, very, very literal. But now notice what they have here, very different, who gloried in their swords. So here's a question mark that you want to ask yourself. Why did the Septuagint translate swords? Again. And another question is, why is the author saying that these kings and these counselors of the earth were building ruins for themselves? Why is that? Doesn't make sense? So think about that as we think about interpretation. We will come back to this, but now I just want to draw your attention to this word, because as you noticed, if you look at some translation, it's a little bit disputed. More importantly, is disputed with the Septuagint, who gloried in their swords. And I put here the word in Greek here, so this is the Septuagint translation. And I put the word haraba. What does it mean? And notice what usually is translated as site of ruins. It's a site of ruins. So that's why you can understand why most people translate ruins. And I was not, and then I did notice that one of the possible translation, notice it's exactly Job 3:14. Some think that they built pyramids. So that's interesting. It's a question mark, maybe since the book maybe going back a long time back, or at least is is imagined to be in the past, maybe they are thinking about pyramids. So this is an interesting, and it's showing you a few scholars, Holscher and Tur Sinai, for example, who think that they built pyramids, maybe referring to the ancient Egyptian kings. So that is an interesting interpretation. It's worth thinking about. But also some are reading Haravot, because there's a word in Hebrew, and I didn't put it here, which actually means desolate places. So that's how you understand this particular translation. Built their dwellings. So of course this is supplied because it's not there in desolate places. So that's a possibility. But now just to clarify the confusion, I think it's a confusion for the Septuagint. Why are they translated their swords? I'm not sure why they say gloried. Maybe who gloried. I'm not sure how they get that, but the sword is more understandable because notice the word for sword in Hebrew, cherev. The word for sword in Hebrew is cherev. Notice means dagger or sword, short sword. So you can understand how in a text that is not pointed, so a text that doesn't have the vowels, the Septuagint may read, and with those who gloried or built, but again, they might have a different understanding of this. I'm just not sure what's their understanding of this. But you can see how they may understand swords. So they gloried in their swords. In any case, the image is very, very clear. Had I died, I would be now at rest, and I would be with those kings, and with the counselors, who at one time, they were great, who at one time, they built great palaces, either in desolate places, or more likely, they built something great, but now those have turned into ruins. And it's a little bit a way of saying to Job, no matter how great they were, they are still in the same place with me, and their palaces have become ruins. So that's probably the idea of that particular verse. And I will take a break now, and I will come back later to continue. But please notice that I might not go through the whole chapter for you, but I'm going through some of the verses, and of course you have to go through the rest of the chapter and prepare for next time, so we can discuss the theological points and the issues of interpretation. But I will take a break right now, and I will come back with 3:15 later. God bless.